Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to
Something else.
something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matana, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Genie, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Aria.
And welcome to episode number 266 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes in this week's episode as we take a look at NWA Total Nonstop Action number 81 from February 4th, 2004. My name is Aria, and joining me as always is the Sandman to my Terry Funk. It's Cindy. Cindy, how the hell you doing today?
We are doing good. I got a nice cup of root beer. That's the stuff.
I felt like you were about to list stuff. I didn't realize you were Rosa Diaz listing off your favorite cop movies.
No, I'm just looking up DVD sets of Law and Order.
Which version of Law and Order?
The original.
Alrighty, getting ready for the day when streaming services collapse and everything gets taken right back offline.
I'm already there. But that will happen. I have a strong feeling it will happen.
Well, we'll see. If there's anything that TV has taught me, it's that technology is cyclical. And that will not be the last time that I make a reference to 30 Rock over the next couple weeks. All right, so let's talk about some TNA episode 81, February 4, 2004. Before we dive into it, we'd like to tell you what else is happening in the world of TNA, courtesy of page 12 of this week's issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And the news this week is that it is felt somehow, and this math just isn't mathing in my head, but my math brain broke last week, so who knows, maybe it still needs to be repaired. But it is felt that if TNA can do the same number of buys for their one taped show a month that they do, that the amount of money that they will save would make it to the point where TNA might be able to break even. Now, to me, I don't get how that would even make sense, because even if that one taped show has no expense to it at all, which I mean, it's always going to have a little bit because you still have to have the production people working on it, etc. But even if that one show has no cost at all, and you do the same exact buy rate, you're still like 50% behind. But still, I guess that's an annoyance for another day here. Don Callis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm doing the math. They would have to go one show live, one show taped every shot in order for that to happen.
Which was what the original plan was when Jerry Jarrett was burning through his money really quickly at the start. And then he decided he wasn't losing money fast enough, so he decided to go live every week after like 4 weeks.
Ouch.
Yes. Don Callis has officially put in his notice as he's gotten a real job making use out of his MBA. It said that Jarrett may continue to use his name on the show because they do hope to use him for the still currently scheduled April 4th Sunday night Bound for Glory show.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up in this segment, or would we have to... I guess we could say it now because you brought it up. His official last on-air appearance will be our next TNA show that we cover, which is the America's X Cup.
Technically, we didn't have to bring that up now. I brought it up because it is news that happened this week. Next week is all different news. But
the in-ring stuff has already been taped, so there you go.
But still, the show next week is got different news. Anywho, Don Callis did offer to put over Erik Watts. However, Jarrett really wanted to go in their current direction because, hey, when you can make a show all about you forever and ever and ever, why the hell change anything? And also, an angle was taped for Mexican distribution only, where Jeff Jarrett attacked Juventud Guerrera, which is supposed to lead to Jarrett going down to Mexico to defend the NWA title. And the NWA name means nothing in Mexico. Of course, it means nothing anywhere at this point. And they felt that just saying the NWA champion is coming in would mean jack shit. I like to think somewhere on Mexican TNA programming, they've been re-airing a scene of Jeff Jarrett hitting Juventud Guerrera in the head with a guitar for the last 20 years.
Probably not, because, I mean, is Juvi still... I know Juvi wrestled a few years ago.
Juvi was wrestling last year.
Oh, was it in Mexico, or was he doing some spot shows for GCW?
I don't know where he was wrestling, but he was still wrestling last year. So it's like, but go ahead.
I mean, I know he wrestled in AEW a few years back.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I have the cage match thing. That's kind of my reference for. And it's gonna get a workout tonight. He did. I have it right here. December 13th. Todo ex todo en Fale de la Gracia Despisa el Hijo de Santo Último Lucha.
Or in English?
Todo ex el todo en final de la guerra de despedida de el Hijo del Santo Ultimo Lucha event.
Technically, you still didn't say it in English, but we'll move on.
Well, I said it in English, but I just said it slower so English people could understand. He was in part of a 3-way tag match with Psychosis 2, which, well, it's Juvi and it's Psychosis.
So not Psychosis also, but Psychosis number 2?
That's what they're calling him now. I mean, full credit for Psychosis. He's 58 and still going.
And how old is Juvi?
49, I think.
I would double check that.
Juvi's got to be like 50 years. The Juvi wiki, 52.
That's still a little wacky, but we'll go with
51.
That
50. He was born November 23rd, 1974, so 51 years old.
All right. So, on to the show. The show began without last week's cable piracy promo, thus proving my theory that now that Erik Watts is no longer Director of Authority, you are allowed and encouraged to pirate the show again. Or someone gave Erik Watts a sandwich. One of the two. Now, I got to tell you, there's not a lot on this show that I'm going to be popping for. I popped for the pre-show video package because they changed the pre-show video package to nothing but Jeff Jarrett highlights. Which, I mean, if you're going to make the show all about you, start from the beginning. You know, it is Jeff Jarrett, and more Jeff Jarrett. And I'm just going to tear off this Band-Aid at the beginning. They say over and 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 over again on this show that they are under new management. Don Callis has been half of the management team for the last 7 months. That's not new management. It's the same management we had.
But I think they say it because he's essentially just cronyism to Jarrett. So,
which is hilarious because we have our opening segment here where Jeff Jarrett. Actually, I'm sorry. We start with the Millionaires Club New Blood angle because the show begins with all the heels around the ring and all the baby faces up on the ramp. It's not important to note, but it is important to note that in between the two are all the referees and all the security geeks. Just want to throw that out there because it becomes important in a couple minutes. So Don Callis, Jeff Jarrett, and Johnny Fairplay were introduced. I did wonder, why would the babyfaces even bother? This is the Jeff Jarrett victory speech, even though he didn't win a damn thing. But it's a Jeff Jarrett victory speech. Why the hell do the babyfaces care? But, oh well. So Jarrett finally brings out Tom T. Sr. Yes, he's no longer a voice. He's now a human being. And as we mentioned a month ago, despite what Google AI once tried to claim, it is not the then 19-year-old filthy Tom Lawler, who of course would become a UFC star and, pro wrestler.
Although after seeing him and hearing him talk for the next 2 weeks, I wish it was 19-year-old filthy Tom Lawler. At least that would be more interesting. A 19-year-old lawyer. I mean, that would be interesting.
Well, Google AI seems to think that you can be a lawyer at any age.
Well, sometimes AI slop can be hilarious.
Now, I should note that the Tom T was actually played by former Memphis manager brother Ernest Angel, for those running across T's and dots and I's. So Tom T said that as of 9 p.m. Central Time tonight, in other words, when the show ends, the NWA board of directors were all resigning, as was Bill Behrens, in order to, and I quote, prevent a nasty lawsuit. That once again brings up, the point we made a month ago. If the board of directors were all dirty and Erik Watts was clean, what was the point of just getting rid of Erik Watts? But I guess we're trying to wrap that up into a bow by saying the rest of the board is now resigning. Why didn't they resign at the beginning? Who knows? Who cares?
Because he could still have power because he couldn't be fired with cause.
Tom T said the babyfaces were prima donnas and mentally challenged. He then explained to them what a breach of contract is and basically said if they don't do whatever they are told, they are fired. Jarrett told Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger that one of them needed to tell us which of them signed the Jeff Jarrett loyalty pledge or both of them are fired. Now, there's going to be a lot of issues on this show. This is the last time that is part of the show because I spoil things for you right now. We do not find out on this show or next week's show for that matter who signed the loyalty pledge, and more spoilers, neither of them are fired. Just letting that go. He then tells us that Jerry Lynn needs to win the America's X Cup next week or he is fired. Sonny Siaki needs to beat Kid Cash or he is fired. El Canutillo needs to either take off his mask or be unmasked when he loses to Abyss, or he is fired. Although I guess they didn't actually say that. They did not actually say that El Canutillo would be fired if he doesn't unmask. I actually note that they didn't actually say that. But it does bring up the question that we're going to ask in perpetuity because this is TNA after all.
Right.
If he has the ability to just fire people at will for no reason, why is he making these matches? And if it's a case where, well, you can't actually fire them unless they lose some kind of a stipulation, then why is every match a fair fight? Why isn't Sonny Siaki taking on 10 people? Why isn't El Canutillo having to wrestle a match where he has to lay on the mat and never lift his shoulder off the ground?
Because you would have to realize that somebody not Vince Russo isn't writing this show. Because let's face it, Vince Russo go whole hog. If this was Vince Russo unfiltered like it was a few months ago or in WCW, it would go full bore into that direction.
Well, Jarrett said that he has to defend his title tonight, but he says it is not against AJ Styles, D'Lo Brown, or Raven. Okay, then. And I'm not going to complain yet. I'm going to complain later on about that. But yeah. So Jeff Jarrett's going to defend the world title in the main event against a mystery opponent. And then Jeff Jarrett offered an open microphone to the babyfaces to air their grievances. And Chris Harris decided now was the time to air his grievances. And his grievances are that Jeff Jarrett needs to keep his mouth shut. It's not really much of a grievance, but whatever. Harris lost his train of thought, and after a couple Harris lost...
Kabuki!
Easy for me to say. Harris lost his train of thought after a couple sentences. Jarrett called him a mid-card tag team wrestler, so Harris then called himself a mid-card tag team wrestler, but then said that Jarrett doesn't own any of them or TNA. Harris says the babyfaces know who Jarrett's opponent is. The crowd chanted ICP, which, spoiler alert, thank God, is not the ICP. Jarrett dared
Can you
Harris
imagine if Violent J actually did win the NWA title?
I'm almost more interested in what would happen if they booked that match and Jarrett won.
Jarrett would have died.
Jarrett dared Harris
drowned in Fago.
Jarrett dared Harris to get in the ring, so Harris did. Somehow the dozen referees and security guys that were out there a minute ago disappeared because Harris walked unimpeded into the ring, and eventually all the babyfaces ran into the ring to run off all of the heels. This segment, I didn't look at the clock. It went at least 15 minutes.
It went 16 fucking minutes. We complain. I will give them credit for one thing. It actually said that the match is for tonight's show. They're telling you this, and this is going to happen. It's good. We're going to have Abyss versus El Leon. We're going to have Sonny Siaki versus Kid Cash. Jarrett's going to have a title match. We're going to have stuff that's going to happen that people might want to see. At least this isn't, and we are right in the thick of it. In Raw, because Triple H will talk for 20 minutes and we only get one match we care about a week.
But what's the point? What's the point of by the way, El Canuteo versus Abyss was announced last week. But what's the point of, after you buy the pay-per-view, telling you what the matches are? The point of promotion is to promote. No one is turning the show on because they heard, oh my God, Kid Cash is going to wrestle Sonny Siaki. I'm not saying anyone would have bought the goddamn pay-per-view anyway, but if you told everyone last week that Kid Cash was wrestling Sonny Siaki, you could at least claim that if nobody bought the show, well, it's because no one's interested in Kid Cash versus Sonny Siaki. If someone out there, if one human being out there was like, hey, didn't Kid Cash and Sonny Siaki feud for the X Division title? Wasn't that kind of fun? Maybe I'll buy the show to watch them have their first match in like a year. If that somehow is the case, if Kid Cash's mom, if Mama Cash is home and she's like, well, I don't know if my boy's going to be wrestling tonight, so I don't want to buy this $10 pay-per-view, she's going to be disappointed now. And TNA is going to be out of $4.50 approximately.
This all falls back on the original sin. This is a pay-per-view. This is a 2-hour TV wrestling show disguised as a pay-per-view.
And that's the issue. And this is part of the reason why, like, this era of TNA in many ways is worse than WCW ever was. Because at least in WCW, when Vince Russo would book his 4 hours of Crash TV every week and his 10 hours of Crash TV every month, or I'm sorry, 20 hours of Crash TV every month. In theory, you're going to blow it off on a big show at the end of the month that was going to be full of long-form wrestling matches. This Vince Russo got in his head. It's just a nonstop TV show, so you never have to have that show at the end of the month that blows everything off into a long form show. If they even did that, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to say it's worth it, but it's almost worth it because, hey, there's that one show that they build to that has 3 or 4 matches that I spent the last month of my life, investing my time in. They never did that. It was Vince Russo booking Crash TV every single week, and no one was paying to watch it.
And right now, even less people are paying to watch it.
Oh. Scott Hudson was with Armando Quintero and Antonio Pena to plug America's X Cup. Pena was confident that they'd win. Anything else?
Judging by who the NWA wrestlers are, we'll say Team TNA, the TNA wrestlers are, and who the AAA wrestlers are. Yeah, I would be confident too, because let's face it, you have on Team TNA Jerry Lynn, who is feeling so much pressure right now, Chris Sabin, who is still riding on a high, Elix, who's okay, and has Sanjay Dutt even won a match of consequence in the past few months?
He won the Triple Chance Invitational Tournament.
In the past 2 months.
Has he been on the show since winning the Triple Chance Invitational Tournament?
Exactly. And we'll save that for the next show.
Alrighty. Glenn Gilberti and David Young versus the Insane Clown Posse. David Young does not like clowns because sometimes they offer you a balloon and sometimes they have sharp teeth and make you bleed. I guess that's a solid reason.
He was probably scared to death of it. Now we're talking the original 1990 it.
Now, I don't know how much formal in-ring training the Insane Clown Posse has had, but they've wrestled before. Now, Violent J was better. Shaggy 2 Dope, who was the one who famously took an awesome bomb on that 70s bus and fell off and landed on his head, was definitely someone who watched a lot of wrestling in his life. During the match, we found out that Too Tough Tony, who David Young knocked out with one punch last week, was banned from ringside this week. I assume that's so ICP would have a decent chance at winning if they didn't have to worry about their heavyweight champion getting his butt kicked by the lowest ranked heel on the card. Shaggy pinned David Young after a top rope leg drop.
Wait a minute. After the match, hold on. Rewind. Too Tough Tony was the JCW champion in 2004?
That's what they said last week.
Oh, God. He was just a JCW heavyweight champion a couple months ago.
I mean, Triple H was champion for 20 years. Why can't Too Tough Tony be the champion for 20 years?
Because there's so many better wrestlers right now in the JCW run. Yes, I watched JCW Lunacy. I mean, there's Kerry Morton, Caleb Conley, Willie Mack, Ninja Mac, Facade, who's really good. There's a lot of good wrestlers there. We don't need Too Tough Tony, who can't work, who can't do anything. All he does is just hit people with plunder, pour tequila on his hand, light it on fire, and punch somebody. That's all he does.
I like that you just told me that a human being lights his hand on fire and punches people during his match and blew it off like you said that he does an arm bar.
No, because that's all he's got. That's all he has.
After the match, Gilberti and Young attacked Insane Clown Posse, but Too Tough Tony made the save. For a number of reasons, it made perfect sense that if you're going to make us sit through an Insane Clown Posse match, David Young and Glenn Gilberti are the people who should be wrestling, the Insane Clown Posse. Both are veterans who can lead green guys through a basic match, and as mentioned, they're the lowest ranked heels in the company. No one would give a shit if Glenn Gilberti and David Young lost to the Insane Clown Posse. 2.0 out of 10.
I liked it a little bit more than you did, but I have the same line of thinking. I gave it a 3 out of 10. Mainly because I thought that Shaggy did a pretty decent leg drop off the top rope. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I mean, we've seen way worse matches than this. We had a couple way worse matches last week.
I've given matches way worse ratings than this.
Yeah, so
the entire catalog of Bruce matches, way worse ratings than 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfectly passable match.
Scott Hudson was with Jerry Lynn and the rest of Team USA. Lynn pointed out the preposterosity of being in breach of contract for losing a match. Any thoughts on this? Kid Cash versus Sonny Siaki. Siaki, who has never been a babyface in this promotion, gave Cash a German suplex throw. It was obvious that Cash thought this was going to be a normal German suplex, so when Siaki threw him, Cash landed right on top of his head. Oops. Cash then grabbed the chair that Jeremy Borash was sitting on, so Borash grabbed the chair away. Cash then beat up Borash and Tiny. Sara, the ticket-taking lady, ran in with her broom, but Cash menaced an old lady. It will probably never be explained why she always has a broom, will it? Like, I know she had it that one time with the Dupps, but it's not. That doesn't mean it was ever mentioned. She just happens to always have a broom with her. When people come in to buy tickets from her, does she hit them with a broom or something?
For an extra $5, probably.
Oh, God. The finish saw Cash get the broom to attempt to injure Siaki with it, but Borash jumped up on the apron to distract Cash. Cash swung through with Borash, but Borash didn't enjoy being swept in the face, so he ducked, and Siaki rolled Cash up for the pin. After the match, Don Callis stormed out, and I assumed, especially based on how this show goes, that he was about to reverse the decision and Sonny Siaki would be fired. However, that does not happen. According to the contracts of Borash, Sara, and Tiny, and who would have thought that the ticket-taking lady and the timekeeper would have a contract, but according to their contracts, none of them are allowed to interfere in matches. I truly want to believe that TNA has contracts that stipulate that certain people are allowed to interfere in matches. I truly believe that. And so
that would be hilarious, and I want to see those contracts.
I don't know. Conan sued TNA that time. I'm sure his contract is out there somewhere.
I'll have my lawyer friend check the docket.
Callis then fired Sara, Tiny, and Borash. And then I guess he didn't actually reverse the decision because he made a point to scream that he will fire Siaki next. Trinity ran in, and she and Cash beat up Siaki. Cash then put an under new management sticker on Siaki, and of course, because Siaki was super sweaty, the sticker immediately fell right off. This is going to be a long show, isn't it? Is how I finished the segment. 3.5 out of 10.
Like, this is the second match in a row. Just liked it a little bit more than you did. I mean, just the tiniest of margins. I gave it a 4 out of 10. And by the way, this is the last time I do believe on camera we see Sara.
Oh, darn. That makes me so sad.
So Sara is done.
Since next week's show we're supposed to believe is a brand new show, even though the crowd completely changed halfway through, I want to know who's taking the tickets. We'll get to it, but I know who does the ring announcing. I know who rings the bell, but we don't know whoever took the tickets next week.
Probably one of the black shirt security guys. Who knows?
I don't know why. When you started saying one of, I swear you're about to say one of the black guys.
Anyway, Hudson's talking with AMW. Chris Harris does some.
You're not letting me do my catchphrase. Scott Hudson was now with America's Most Wanted. Go ahead.
Anyway, Chris Harris was yelling more and more like taunting that he knows who Jarrett's facing. Everybody knows except him and the heel side of the roster. Jarrett storms in demanding who he's facing, and he ain't saying a word. And the Cosmic Ballet goes on.
According to Chris Harris, it's no one's business to know who Jeff Jarrett is wrestling tonight. This is the same company that is, or the same angle where Jeff Jarrett is threatening to sue anybody and everybody, and they have a lawyer, to try to enforce these loyalty contracts. However, apparently they are unable to legally determine who the challenger is going to be. Again, imagine if this is real and you are a champion going out to defend your championship and you don't know who that's going to come out of the curtain to come out and wrestle you. If the fucking, I don't even fucking know who's actually good in basketball right now. If the Oklahoma City Thunder showed up in the NBA Finals and didn't know who they were going to play until their music hit and they come out onto the court, that would not be allowed.
No.
I don't even know if the Thunder are any good this season.
They won the championship last year, and they did it.
Well, yes, but that doesn't mean they're good. That doesn't mean they're good this season. I mean, they were good last season. Anyway, Abyss versus El Leon. And at this point, Tim Welsh, I wrote whoever the hell that is, took over as ring announcer, and Rick Michaels, who once got a 3-week push, took over as timekeeper. And if I'm not mistaken, Tim Welsh is a guy that they use next year when Jeff Jarrett is suing TNA for some reason. And Tim Welsh is the lawyer.
I think so. By the way, I looked it up for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 1 in the West, baby. And number 1 in the league.
You know they don't play in Seattle anymore, right?
Fuck you.
El Leon's gimp mask was very loose, and he kept having to adjust it as the match was going. Leon did a plancha that was better than Shaggy 2 Dope's attempt earlier. Abyss set up a table outside the ring, and in the ensuing fight with Leon, Abyss gave him a side Russian leg sweep of all things. I would like to believe that when you distract Joseph Park from doing hardcore moves, he just instinctively breaks out wrestling. There was nothing exceptionally notable about this match until the finish, where AJ Styles randomly ran in for the disqualification. AJ and Gimp double-teamed Abyss and sent him out of the ring. After the match, AJ demanded his title shot. Don Callis and Tom T. Sr. came out and gave AJ a title shot for the tag team titles. And I guess he and Jerry Lynn never got their rematch for the titles after losing them. But Don told AJ his partner tonight would be Abyss. Now, despite the fact that the stipulation of this match was that if El Gimpo loses, he will have to unmask, El Gimp did not unmask.
Because his shoulders were not into the mat.
That was not the stipulation. The stipulation
was what Jarrett said at the beginning. So hey, there's your legal loophole. Tom T should have written that down in a contract or pulled Jarrett to the side and said, hey, there's a loophole here. Let me close it. But Jarrett ran his mouth. Hey, El Leon keeps his mask.
But the point was, he had to either take off the mask in that opening segment or take off the mask after he loses to Abyss. And he did neither. Fine. I'm not going back and fucking rewatching this, but fine. Maybe Jarrett did say he had to pin him. He didn't give him one choice. His other choice was to remove the mask at the end of the segment, which he didn't do. So El Leon should face whatever punishment was supposed to come out of him not unmasking. Because as we noted, he never said that El Leon would be fired. 4.0 out of 10.
3.5 out of 10. Yeah.
Scott Hudson.
This is one of the roughest watches we've had in a while. And it's not because of match quality, it's because of all the other external bullshit.
I'm sorry, point to me where the good matches are, and I'll be happy to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. Scott Hudson was now with the Sandman.
Yeah, you're right.
Scott Hudson was now with the Sandman, who smashed a beer can on his head, and Terry Funk, who said they will make a good team because Sandman asked for his help. Is that really all it takes? Terry says he is nuts, his wife is nuts, his daughter is nuts, his dog is nuts, and his horse is constipated. Okay.
Yep. Makes sense for a Terry Funk promo at this time.
Terry Funk is so amazingly Terry Funk at all times. And he almost single-handedly made this show better. By the way, I want to point out when AJ Styles demanded a title shot, I was half convinced he was going to get an X title shot. And I was like, wow, AJ versus Michael Shane would actually be a good match. And then I'm like, it literally wasn't until later in the fucking show that I remembered that Michael Shane is not the X Division champion.
Yeah, Chris Sabin won it in January.
Well, this is the first show of February, so it's not really saying a whole lot.
I know. They're putting a lot of eggs in this Ultimate X basket, and they're kind of letting the X title rot a bit.
Speaking of the tag team titles, last week, 3 Live Crew lost the tag belts. This week, they weren't even mentioned. They were in that opening segment, but at no point after that were they on the show, mentioned on the show, did anything remotely on the show. Not even mentioned that, oh yeah, 3 Live Crew got screwed out of the belts last week. Nope. The most pointless title reign in TNA history ended, and it's like when Jinder Mahal lost the title. You know, he lost the title, and then you never saw him again. It's like it never happened. The Gathering with Jim Mitchell versus the Sandman and Terry Funk. Now, every week on this show, the Sandman's music plays, and he does a 5-minute lap around the arena. This week, apparently, he felt it was important to get that ring time in because his music hit and he ran to the ring. I guess he either didn't drink much or he drank so much he forgot to walk through the crowd. Gathering attacked Sandman during Funk's entrance, so Terry hobbled down and the match was on. One guy tried to start a Ring of Honor chant and no one joined in. Punk called Funk an egg-sucking dog, so Sandman thwacked him in the back of the head with a Singapore cane. Funk missed a moonsault, and the Gathering almost won with a spike pile driver, but Funk barely kicked out. Funk moved, and Punk tried to act... This is my favorite spot ever. Punk tried to accidentally give Julio a Hurricane Rana, but they epically fucked it up, which was actually for the better, because as we've seen when Trinity does it, accidentally giving people a Hurricane Rana is the dumbest spot of all fucking time. Yeah. How does one accidentally give somebody a Hurricane Rana?
I have no clue.
Anyway, continuing the one story in this fucking company that they are booking correctly, Sandman missed a senton Atomico, and Julio pinned him after the demolition decapitation. People were legitimately surprised the Gathering still won, and I'll be honest, I was, but again, they're booking one thing correctly on this show. The broken clock is right twice a day is the Gathering versus the Sandman. I don't know what circle of hell. This is like when, WWE would be booking the dumbest shit ever, but Seg 11 would be the one segment that made sense in the whole show. But because it was Seg 11, they didn't give a shit about it and just let whatever happen, happen. And by Seg 11, I don't mean the main event. I mean the least important segment on the show. 3.5 out of 10, by the way.
3.0 out of 10, and we have sad news.
What is the sad news?
Sandman is done.
Well,
this is his last weekly TNA pay-per-view appearance. So now the Gathering feud transfers to Terry Funk.
Terry Funk!
I shouldn't have taken the money!
Night Today talked to Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger earlier today. Today wants to know which of them signed the loyalty pledge. Diamond said Glenn Gilberti is a liar. Diamond said they got nothing. And I just want to point out that Glenn Gilberti did get them 5 title shots when they'd never even won a fucking match on the show before. Swinger said he trusts Diamond with his life and he would never do anything to hurt Simon Diamond. Johnny Fairplay came in and said he smelled a liar, but said that when you lie, you fess up afterwards, and that's what makes you a man. Diamond roughed up Fairplay to end the segment, and I don't think there's a human being alive that doesn't know who is turning on who from this team.
I mean, the signs are pointing to Diamond, but we don't know.
Did Simon Diamond say that he trusts Johnny Swinger with his life and would never do anything to hurt Johnny Swinger? That is the Vince Russo booking. It's the swerve that everyone knows because it's a badly booked swerve. Here's the thing with swerves and turns in general. If you're doing a turn and the people involved are going to be elevated because of it, then it's a good turn. Then it's a good angle, a good storyline, and something comes out of it. I'm going to spoil things for you right now. Nobody involved in this ends up any better out of this. In fact, everybody involved is worse than this. Because Johnny Swinger is not better off as a single. Simon Diamond is not better off as a single. Whoever the person is that ends up with Gilberti and David Young, they don't end up any higher on the card because of it. And the person who isn't ends up a jobber, more or less. With a stupid name. A stupid name that's his legal fucking name, but it's still stupid.
Say your catchphrase.
Scott Hudson was now with AJ Styles. Now, remember how we mentioned that AJ Styles ran in like 10 minutes ago? He was in his street clothes 10 minutes ago. AJ Styles is backstage in his gear. And the reason why I need to make mention of this is because Erik Watts, who's been wrestling for this company for over a year at this point, still has never gotten any gear. And yes, I'm going to bring that up every fucking time Erik Watts wrestles on this show. So AJ said he will go have this match and he may become the tag team champions.
By the way, this was released about a week ago, but did you see that god-awful WCW Cyberdome video that's been put up recently?
I didn't spend my life watching the videos, but I did see it.
God. I'm now thinking you're right because Erik Watts wasn't even in gear for that match.
Who needs gear when you're Erik Watts?
I mean, you look better in street clothes than you do in gear. I mean, if you remember him, has he ever had good quote-unquote gear?
He had his short trunks in WCW. It's about as close as we ever got.
Terrible.
Would you rather have him in that or his Techno Team 2000 gear?
At least that looked interesting.
I forget if I mentioned it on this show or if it was just on the Trey show. A couple months ago, I was scrolling through Facebook and somebody posted that they tried watching Dynamite, but in the first 5 minutes, some dude looking like Erik Watts walked out and they immediately turned the show off. And I went back to see what the hell they were talking about. And I had to go back and ask, are you talking about Kyle Fletcher? Kyle Fletcher does not fucking look like Erik Watts.
How the hell do you confuse somebody who's bald and is...
Because he had the silver jacket on. And it's like, oh, that's Techno Team 2000. Like, that's the fucking jump you made? Like, really, people?
Evel Knievel couldn't make that leap of logic if he tried.
AJ Styles and Abyss versus the Redshirts for the NWA Tag Team titles. I don't know what fucking music they played, but they played the wrong music for the Redshirts when they came out.
Oh, they played the when they have the info stuff for belts for title matches, that's the music that they played to start. And they today covered up for it pretty decently, though. They said this match was thrown together 15 minutes ago, so we couldn't bullshit any good taglines. So we played that bit, and then they segged into one of the worst themes in wrestling history.
I would accept that more if they weren't introducing the Redshirts while that music was playing. But anyway, Abyss is pulling double duty tonight.
The gun again.
Well, he makes a better lawyer than he does a ring announcer. Abyss is pulling double duty tonight, and hey, when AJ won the tag titles with Jerry Lynn, AJ had already wrestled once that night. So maybe this is a good sign for our challenging team. Now, do you remember who AJ defeated that night before he and Jerry Lynn won the tag titles?
Oh, God.
I'll give you a hint. He wrestled on this show that we are currently reviewing.
Kid Cash?
Nope. David Young.
Oh, wow. Oh, when he was with fucking Bobcat.
Yes, not fucking Bobcat, but he was with fucking Bobcat. So, Legend forced Abyss to give him a handshake, and sadly, Abyss did not respond with a drop toe hold. Because I just want to see Abyss do wrestling moves now. The Gimp ran out and attacked Abyss before the match started and fought him to the back. AJ then stood on the top rope for approximately 25 minutes until the Redshirts turned around so AJ could dive onto them. TNA and West were concerned that AJ was now in a 2-on-1 handicap match. And I guess he had a better chance a minute ago when he was basically in a 3-on-1 handicap match. But AJ sent him into the corner and waited some more for Northcutt to drop to his knees for their next planned spot. But Northcutt wouldn't drop, so AJ went over and made him do it. I would say I hope Northcutt was better at being a bouncer than a wrestler, but he did get stabbed a dozen times. And I don't know what the average number of times to be stabbed is as a bouncer, but Kevin Northcutt is not the only bouncer turned pro wrestler, and I've never heard anyone else have a stab count on these shows before.
I mean, the entirety of the Minnesota wrestling contingent were bouncers. I mean, Road Warriors, Rick Rude, Berserker.
There you go. Did Jim Ross ever say that Hawk got stabbed 12 times? No. Even though,
no,
by the way,
Hawk got shot 12. Well, Hawk got shot 12. I'm sorry. He had 12 shots one night.
It would have fucking actually made the Road Warriors look even more like badasses that they got stabbed 12 times while bouncing, and they still kicked people's asses. Like, keep in mind, today never says Kevin Northcutt got stabbed 12 times, and he still kicked all 12 of those people's asses. Although I do wonder, did Kevin Northcutt get stabbed by one person 12 times or by 12 different people? That'd be
it was so ineffective. Those stabs must have been so ineffective they were done by Jesus.
Gotta say, like, John Cena is impressed by the stabbing that this person did to Kevin Northcutt.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna scream in a minute here. Before I scream,
I give my part of the end?
I gotta set up the why I'm screaming.
Okay.
They get the heat on AJ as TNA plugged that Northcutt had a brand new move called the Northcutt Driver. And this is where I wrote that it really is true that in the early 2000s, you took your name and added driver or bomb to it, and that was your big move. Chris Harris ran to the ring to yell at the referee, so Legend beat him up. Now, before I get to the yelling part, do you have anything to say before the finish?
I thought this is probably the best red shirt security match that we've watched far and away.
Shockingly, AJ Styles can carry people to a decent match.
And yet they still look like fucking idiots, but go ahead.
All right. So remember when Jason Cross was in this company and they went on and on about how he has a brand new move called the Crossfire, and when he hits it, you can't wait until you see this. And then he hit it, and I think he was wrestling Erik Skipper. Erik Skipper kicked out, and I ranted and raved about it. And then this past September, Jarrell Clark debuted on this show, and they went on and on about how Jarrell Clark has a brand new move called the 630. And wait until you see Jarrell Clark hit the 630. Jarrell Clark hit the 630. I don't even remember who he wrestled. They kicked out, and I ranted and raved some more.
I think this was
Kevin Northcutt hit the Northcutt driver, and AJ kicked out. Again, wrestling is fake. If you're not, like, Mike Tenay may not have known the structure of the match, but the one thing he did know, I'm confident in, was that the Redshirts were not winning this match. And so don't bother fucking plugging this great new move that Kevin Northcutt has when you know that even if he hits it, it's not winning the match. And, like, because of the booking of this match, AJ didn't have a partner. So it's not even like AJ's partner ran in and broke it up. It's not even like Chris Harris. Chris Harris ran to the ring and he didn't jump up on the apron to distract the referee. No. AJ Styles kicked out of the big move that's been plugged on this show for the third fucking time since we've been doing this show. Again, wrestling is fake. Just live. Like, I'm pretty sure this is not the last fucking time we're going to watch Kevin Northcutt in a fucking match. We can live to find out about Kevin Northcutt's wacky brand new move the next time they're on the show and they fucking win. By the way, let this be known, this is the first time in wrestling history that anyone has compared Jason Cross, Jarrell Clark, and Kevin Northcutt. Anyway, Harris beat up the Legend, which was not a disqualification, and AJ rolled up Northcutt for the pin and to win the titles. Despite all that, AJ carried the Redshirts to probably their best match ever, at the very least their best match since joining the company. Technically your winners and new tag team champions, AJ Styles and Abyss. Somehow they're doing Team Hell No a decade before Team Hell No, which is preposterous to me that they managed to beat WWE to do something first. 5.0 out of 10.
Exactly what I gave it, 5.0 out of 10. And when was the last time Redshirt Security actually looked menacing? I mean, when they were just continually beating up Rick Santel and Chris Vaughn. After that, they look like idiots.
After they murdered Rick Santel that one time, or is it Rick Santel or?
No, it was Rick Santel.
Is that his actual name? It's not Chris Santel. No, it's Rick
Chris
Santel.
Vaughn.
Yeah.
After
they injured Rick Santel, it's been downhill for our red shirts ever since then. And keep in mind, that was when fucking Ryan Wilson was the red shirt. It was before they decided that we need someone who can allegedly wrestle on this team. And it turns out the guy who can wrestle, he lost all his talent when he started teaming with them. By the way, so yeah, and I know it's not going to last, but they could almost have something here with AJ Styles and Abyss being Daniel Bryan and Kane a decade before they were Daniel Bryan and Kane. You have the two people, the partners who hate each other, and you have that, and this is TNA's Kane. They've literally stolen Kane's storylines to use for Abyss. So literally, they have the undersized babyface and the big menacing monster heel. There's something they could do here, but without exactly knowing what's happening, I know it doesn't last. I don't even think they have, I could be wrong, but I don't even think they have one match together as champions.
I don't think so either. I mean, I remember seeing them wrestle against each other, and then Lex Luger, of all people, shows up.
Yes, that part I remember. I remember that at some point they do a match to decide who are the real tag team champions, and they can pick their own partner. Lex Luger interferes in that match, which I can't wait for that. And then even though Abyss is now the tag team champions with theoretically Lex Luger, they never wrestle as a team either, and they just do a tournament for the belts, I think, at the end of March.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I mean, can I... Now, let me rant. Has there ever been a section of wrestling titles that has been treated with such neglect since, say, 1985 than tag team titles? I mean, how many times have important changes happened on either house shows that have happened to given the titles to non-established teams at all, partners that don't hate each other, or my personal favorite. And I was reminded of this. I think I was watching a Wrestling with Regret video. You're a face tag team. You're part of a face stable. And you know where I'm going with this.
I honestly have no idea where you're going with this.
The Shield broke up because Roman got diagnosed. His cancer came back. Uh-huh. So Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins win the tag titles. They're celebrating with the tag titles, and then for no reason that we're given, immediately, Dean then just does his double arm DDT to Seth. And apparently it was that moment where Mox was like, I'm fucking done with this bullshit.
He was very offended by, what's his name? By Roman getting leukemia.
Oh. He was also extremely offended because Vince wanted him to attack Roman's leukemia. I mean, go heel on Roman for getting leukemia, and he would not do it. So he was like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to go work the rest of my contract. I'm going to half-ass everything, and I'm just done.
He'll go make some money in New Japan.
And help be one of the key figures in AEW.
That wasn't why he left. He left because he can just go make some money in New Japan. All right. So we then get a recap of some of the media they got for the Brian Urlacher situation. Funnily enough, during one of the news reports, the reporter was doing an on-camera during one of the America's X Cup matches, as you could see Chris Sabin in the background.
I mean, nothing was spoiled there, so I think TNA saw that, were like, yeah, that's fine.
Well, we know that Chris Sabin did a dive onto Juventud Guerrera next week. So speaking of next week, it is the America's X Cup, and they quickly ran through the matches. I would have liked if they would have spent a little bit more time on this, but I called it a win because they actually told us the fucking matches. It's going to be Jerry Lynn versus Mr. Aguila, Sanjay Dutt versus Hector Garza, Elix Skipper versus Abismo Negro, and as mentioned, Chris Sabin versus Juventud Guerrera. And then they also plug that there's going to be an 8-man tag. They don't tell you the breakup of the 2 tag matches, but at the same time, I call this at least a partial win because by telling us those 4 matches, they did more than I thought they were going to do. And they're going to have to go back. I don't even think they ever announced the Super X Cup of pairings ahead of time. So if that's the case, this is already more than they did for the Super X Cup back in September.
Yep.
Now, I do think they could have. Now, they never tell us what the point format is, which they told us they would this week. And like I said, they could have done a better job getting over the individual matches. But at least, like I said, they told you what they were. So I will call this a win. Scott Hudson was now with the Insane Clown Posse. Shaggy asked if he saw his smeared face paint. Violent J wanted to know who Scott Hudson was, which confused me because I thought Violent J said last week he watches TNA as often as possible. And considering Hudson is on the show 6 or 7 times every week, I think Violent J might be lying.
I think Violent J is high as fuck.
Violent J then took his pants off. I am not being facetious here. He took his pants off to show everyone that he was wearing tights under his pants. ICP challenged, and I quote, anyone Jeff Jarrett can muster up to a Juggalo street fight next week. And it was later said that this is actually going to be on the February 18th show, although I would not have been surprised had it actually been next week. Because you remember the last time they did the X Cup show, that's when they gave us, what was it, Mad Mikey versus Laz, and they also did the War
exactly
Games
what they did,
and
show. We never forgave them for it.
Nope. But they also did War Games on that show, right?
Yeah, Bloody Wednesday. So, I mean, they never really gave a damn about the Super X Cup.
It was when Erik Watts booked a 5-on-5 match by saying these 5 guys, pointing at 6 or 7 guys in the ring, would take on those 5 guys, pointing at 7 or 8 guys standing on the ramp. And you had to guess, purely based on facial reactions, which 5 guys in the ring would take on which 5 guys on the ramp. Oh, boy. I swear, Erik Watts is, a lot of times worse than every Raw guest host we ever saw.
Oh, no. No, I would take Erik Watts over Al Sharpton, Jeremy Piven. Yeah.
Well, what about the NASCAR guy saying Kofi Johnson or Dennis Miller calling Triple H the show?
I'll forgive them because we've had much worse butchering of names.
And come on, what did Kofi Johnson ever do to you?
I mean, in wrestling, we've had much worse butchering of names.
So Scott Hudson started talking again, but he was cut off because Erik Watts was walking to the ring. Don West put 2 and 2 together, but came up with 5 because he assumed that this meant that Erik Watts was Jeff Jarrett's opponent. But Mike Tenay, the smartest person in wrestling, said that it was not Erik Watts. Watts said that he is a man of his word. He is no longer DOA. He is not gone, though, because he's now a wrestler. I wonder if this means that he'll get some gear. And then he sat down on his chair that he put in the ring and said he was not leaving the ring until Jeff Jarrett pulled him out of it. And suddenly music played, and it was not Jeff Jarrett, nor was it that weird pre-Jeff Jarrett's theme music that Don Callis got a few weeks ago. It was Goldylocks. And then Mike Tenay solved one of my favorite mysteries that ever wasn't a mystery. Because remember last week when we could not figure out who screamed Goldylocks, you whore! Because it sounds like Mike Tenay, it sounds like Don West, and we figured if it was Don West that it would be the growling the whole time. But it turned out that it was in fact Don West who called Goldylocks a whore. And this segment, I'm looking at the screen. Now, I'll be honest, I did not know who the challenger was. I thought it was Chris Harris. I thought it was like, okay, this is one of those stupidly, overly complicated things. They should just fucking tell us it's Chris Harris. And I'm looking at the screen. There's 16, 17 minutes left on the show. I'm like, okay, there's plenty of time for a really good Chris Harris-Jeff Jarrett match. And this fucking segment would not end. It just kept going and going and going. And Goldylocks said that she faked all her orgasms. And then she began fingering herself at one point. She says that Erik Watts opened the door for her to come into TNA. Goldylocks was the backstage announcer for 13 months. Many of those months before Erik Watts was in the fucking company.
Yeah. Can I say something quickly? Then we'll continue on with this.
About Goldylocks,
let's just say you are just watching the show. You have no idea the behind the scenes stuff, that you did not know Vince Russo wrote any of it, or that Vince Russo was quote unquote back. This is the most Russoist segment I have seen in a while. And I mean that in the worst way. There is some thing to it, though, because she also did say she got tired of everybody stealing her spot, Erik Watts stealing her spotlight. And while she was talking, this led to, I don't know if you ripped it. I hope you did.
Nope.
Oh, fuck. We could have had two great Don West sound bites.
Do you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to pull clips? Especially off of a 2-hour show. You want me to pull 3 seconds off of 1 hour and 42 minutes into the show?
I'll just say the line then. Don West, after all of this, goes, I don't believe in violence to women, but smack her. Further proof that all of us have severely underrated Don West as a commentator.
Well, it was on the first or second show when he was running down Lenny and Bruce, not because they were heels, but because they were gay. So, you know. This is not, Don West in 2002, 2003, 2004 is not the most woke individual we've ever seen in our lives. Goldylocks.
Yeah, but neither was the country, by the way.
Goldylocks forced herself onto Erik Watts by kissing him. So Erik Watts forced himself onto her by kissing her and attempted to chokeslam her. By the way, I forgot to mention that after she forced herself on him, she held the microphone in front of her crotch like it was a penis. And because she's so short and Erik Watts is so tall, that him sitting down on a chair and her holding a microphone in front of her crotch like a penis, it was pretty much at Erik Watts' mouth level at that point. So I say he attempted to chokeslam Goldylocks because Jeff Jarrett and the Redshirts ran in to beat him up. They tried to duct tape Watts' hands behind his back and put an under new management sticker on his mouth. Now, when did you know who the mystery opponent on this show was?
When TNA yelled it out that it was Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, I had no fucking idea. Outran Dustin Rhodes, who, he just left WWE 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. Because he had been injured for a while and off the show, and then he just let his contract go when it was up. So it's he hasn't been on WWE television since September or October, because that's when he was teaming with Lance Storm, when he was going to make Lance interesting. And then he got injured, so Lance had to get a big penis with Val Venus. And instead he just let his contract go. And then he shows up here, and of course he's not Goldust because, I think everyone knows why he wasn't Goldust in TNA. But he's got a goatee. He's got, a shaved head. Nobody recognized him. Nobody at all. But Jeff Jarrett hits the ring to run the Redshirts off. The bell rang, and he is apparently the mystery opponent. By the way, Erik Watts disappeared. I mean, Goldylocks disappeared, but that was expected. Erik Watts just disappeared. We never saw how he left the ring. We didn't see if he was taken out in a stretcher, if if he just got up and walked off like he was Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble that one year. He just disappeared. And so if this is a shoot, now last week Erik Watts informed us that Jeff Jarrett would defend the title this week. That was all Erik Watts said. And then he lost his job at the end of the show. So who decided who Jeff Jarrett's opponent was?
Probably Bill Behrens. Because he still had power.
Why is Bill Behrens allowed to do that?
He's president of the NWA.
But that doesn't matter. The story of this show was that Don Callis had 50% control, Erik Watts had 50% control, and Don Callis won full control from Erik Watts. So
Look,
Don Callis...
if we're gonna poke holes into the stupid ass storyline, we're gonna be here until Tuesday.
I'm just gonna say this: like Don Callis in storyline is a person who made this decision, and if not, they're running the fucking company. It has been established that they can do whatever the hell they want because they run the company. How if Jeff Jarrett doesn't want to defend the title, why does he have to? Jeff Jarrett doesn't know who his opponent is, why not? He runs the company. Why can't he just say that he refuses to wrestle and he's not going to wrestle until he gets told the opponent because he doesn't have to? He's running everything. Like, I know he said at the beginning that, okay, he'll defend the title. It's not against AJ, Raven, or D'Lo, but, like, for fuck's sake, it's not like it was like one of those rigged WWE drawings around the time that led to Funaki and Paul London constantly getting title shots because they do the heel pull the name out of the hopper thing. It wasn't like Jeff Jarrett came out to pull a name out of the hopper and defending the world title against Shark Boy. That, would make sense, even though I'll be honest, it wouldn't have been any shittier than this match that we actually got. But, that would have actually made sense for the storyline. But this was every Jeff Jarrett main event match you've ever seen, just with more people sitting in the stands for free. After they took the lap of the arena, Dustin DDT'd Jarrett on a chair on the ramp and was attacked by the Redshirts. Why was this not a disqualification and a title change? Chris Harris and the Gimp removed them. Dustin hit a power slam and Abyss pulled the referee out. Why is this not a disqualification and a title change? AJ Styles gave Jeff Jarrett a frog splash and Jarrett kicked out. The referee got squished in the corner, which they should have done 3 minutes ago before all this fucking interference started. But then, because this is TNA, and they can't do anything right except booking The Gathering versus Raven, which I'm pretty sure Raven has to be fucking booking that, because that's the only thing that's getting booked right at this point. But because this match has nothing to do with The Gathering and Raven, that means this match can't make sense either. Rudy Charles gets bumped. When all of a fucking sudden, who runs in? Who fucking ran in to interfere at the end of this match? The fucking Naturals. Okay. I'm not Brian Alvarez. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens. I will laugh that, they do look remarkably similar and they really don't do a good job of getting over which one is which. However, the Naturals, this is the third fucking time they've been on the show. They interfered I think it was last October, and cost the America's Most Wanted a match. And then they had one match, I think, against America. I think they had one match against America's Most Wanted and lost. Then they interfered about 3 weeks ago and cost America's Most Wanted another match. And then we haven't seen them fucking again. And now, here they are again to attack Dustin Rhodes, of all fucking people. They hit him, or one of them threw powder in Dustin's eyes. The other hit Dustin with a chair. And if that's not stupid enough, if you want to sit here and say, okay, the Naturals are on Jeff Jarrett's team. We haven't seen them to actually know they're on Jeff Jarrett's team, but they're heels. So, okay, fine. They're on Jeff Jarrett's team. I will accept that. You know what I won't accept? Rudy Charles was getting up and watched the whole fucking thing happen. Why is that not a disqualification and a title change? And then Jarrett got the pin. I want to point out this match was no better than the match with the literal clowns 2 hours ago.
I'd argue the match with the clowns was a bit better than this one.
2.0 out of 10.
2.0 out of 10 as well. Let's just end this fucking show.
That's not even the end of the show yet. Because then the feud that will never end, but also never pay off, Mike Tenay versus Jeff Jarrett continues. As Jeff Jarrett gets in Mike Tenay's face, and someone, and this part never gets, said. They obsess over the fact that Mike Tenay says this, but no one bothers to figure out, well, who the hell told Mike Tenay this?
Keith Mitchell.
Someone. Well, then why aren't we going after Keith Mitchell? Why isn't Keith Mitchell fired?
because he's not part of the show.
He should be fired. We'll get to it, I guess, next week. We'll get to how Keith Mitchell should be fired next week. So TNA screamed at Jarrett that the last thing the NWA Board of Directors is doing before they quit at 9 o'clock, which, by the way, it's now 8:51, which means the NWA Board of Directors are resigning in 9 minutes. The last thing they're going to do before they resign is name a new director of authority. Now, I have been a part of some... I've been in big companies. In fact, I work for a big company right now. No decision has ever been made in 9 minutes, no matter how common sense. It could be we want to fucking, have the hot water turned on in the bathroom so I can wash my hands. That decision does not get made in 9 minutes. So I'm hoping that for the sake of the NWA board, they already have made this decision over who's going to be the new director of authority. Otherwise, there is zero chance in hell that they would get it done in 9 minutes. Especially since at least part of it, like even if they decide right now they got to pick someone new and they're like, okay, I know who we're going to choose, you still have to call the guy and make sure he actually wants to fucking do it. Cindy, if I offered you a job that you don't want to do, you're not going to say yes just because I tell you, hey, I got a time crunch. I need you to say yes in the next 9 minutes.
I'd say no, because how the hell am I going to watch an entire episode of Mid-South or World Class or Smoky Mountain in 9 minutes?
The best thing Trey ever did in his life was be the second person to say yes when I tweeted that. Yeah. This fucking show.
It was bad.
Match quality 3.33. Overall enjoyment. Now, I know I ranted and raved earlier. I ranted about, this is going to be one of those shows. But I'll be honest, when it got to the point where they plugged next week, I was like, you know what? This hasn't been that bad of a show. I know it could be a lot better. But generally speaking, I was enjoying the show with an asterisk on it until the Goldylocks segment.
Oh, God.
I know they had to do something because they just had Goldylocks turn Erik Watts last week. And believe me, if they didn't do anything with that this week, I would have been ranting and raving about that this week. However, knowing that you had to do this fucking angle on this show with Goldylocks and Erik Watts, rewrite some of the undercard shit so when Erik Watts and Goldylocks come out, it doesn't feel like it's the 500th angle on the show. But overall enjoyment, I give it a 3.5. Now, future build, again, probably still generous, 3.5. We've officially started the Chris Harris main event push, and we actually got matches for next week. So that was slightly more than expected. But that gives us an overall rating this week of a 3.44.
And can we state for the record that the rating is not indicative of the quality of the show? The quality of the show was worse.
Typically, it's the other way around. Typically, the show sometimes seems better than an overall rating. But by the way, I'll say this too. A lot of times when I give these shows some shitty ass ratings, I'll go read the Observer and Dave won't blister it, or that the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. It'll be like 40, 50%, either thumbs up or thumbs in the middle. This was all but 2 people gave it a thumbs down this week. So a show that sucked in 2004 just as much as it did in 2026. And I would say, are we almost done? But the answer is yes. 7 months. 7 months.
And at least we get a reprieve because we actually have a good wrestling show coming next.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Any final thoughts before we press the stop button?
I just want to let all the people that I've made love to before, I've never faked an orgasm. See you in 7 days, everyone.